It's kind of a chicken and egg thing because what is generative AI? I don't think we know what it is today. How do you build an architecture canvas that has 500 touches? One, just to do it, two, to track it, three, to debug it. Right? It's kind of like a nightmare. I don't think the future UX, your marketing automation canvas, easier to have a lot of good splits. The future of it might a single email, it looks like canvas, but that can do 500 different of the email. What I see a lot of people in the field doing is kind of compromise it. They're like, well, maybe we'll do segmentation like 4 or 5 levels of sophistication, even though we know that our custom is way more varied. We can bolt on AI legacy tools and it'll make them better than what people want.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the AI Marketer Podcast. I am Neha Mittal, founder of Just AI, where we bring you real stories, real results, and no fluff. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Dillon, who's the Director of Lifecycle and Retention at ClickUp, one of the most forward-thinking marketing leaders out there. ClickUp is an all-in-one project management and productivity platform that combines AI, tasks, docs, goals, and chat all in a single workspace. Dillon, very excited to have you here.
Thanks, Neha.
What do you think of the current capabilities of AI, and does the current CRM landscape actually let us take advantage of that?
Ooh, yeah, that's a great question. It's kind of a chicken and egg thing because like what is generative AI? I don't think we know what it is today, right? But if I think about like what I'm trying to get my junior lifecycle marketers to use AI for, which is create a ton of different variation, ton of different personalization for our types of users, and then try to test those personalization at scale. There's not a rule that I think, there's one that we'll probably get to it, that actually allows marketers to do that level of personalization and kind of hide their audiences down, at least in a way that's manageable to build track in like a normal work.
Yeah, I wanna dig deeper into that. So when you think of, like your favorite CRM, what are the things that you think, especially over the last few years, CRMs have done a good job of, and where do you think are the biggest bottlenecks, and where you're like, oh, this system is going to evolve going forward?
Yeah. So I'm only 32, but I feel like I've seen this landscape evolve a lot in the last like 10 years working. There's like these legacy players, let's call them like the Marketos of the world, who just made it somewhat easy to orchestrate email version. That was their bread and butter, and they made a ton of money and they had a huge market share. Then there was like the second wave, or like the interval raises, maybe customer IO was starting to come up, that did all that functionality, but it's a product that doesn't make you want to pull your hair out. The UI is a little bit more understandable. There's like shortcuts. Your day is a little bit more. Now we're kind of at this third wave, which I think these second wave incumbent players like Interval, right, are really struggling with, which is how do we orchestrate journeys for customers when what they really want is that one-on-one personalization. But how do you actually do that at scale, right? Like, how do you build an orchestration canvas that has 500 touches because there's 500 audience, and then multiply it by emails, SMS, push? One, just to do it, two, to track it, three, to debug it, right? It's kind of like a nightmare. So what I see a lot of people in the field doing is kind of compromising. They're like, well, maybe we'll do segmentation like 4 or 5 levels of sophistication, even though we know that our custom is way more varied than that. We would benefit from much more deeper and varied segmentation.
So what you're saying is right now, because of the current limitations of the stack that we have, there's only so much segmentation or so much personalization that you can go after. That makes me wonder, are we looking at a world where over time, the existing CRMs, like you said, the Brazes and Interval of the world, are going to bring in AI functionality in their, let's say, canvases or journeys and whatnot? Or maybe this is a hot take question, or are you thinking that has to now evolve as well, and that tooling or that sort of mindset itself has to evolve over time. And journey builders, for example, may not exist.
So I do think that's a hot take, but I think it's close to the truth, right? Because I don't think the future UX, your marketing automation canvas, make it easier to have a lot of good splits, right? You can type into it box and say 500, it's still 500 emails, nodes that you have to make. And I know because at ClickUp, we try to build really complicated segmented multi-step monitoring branches. I was trying to debug one. It's truly like not impossible, but it's so difficult with cognitive load. So the future of it might be a single email that what it looked like Canvas, but that can do 500 different of email that you made, like a chat interface or sort of like spreadsheet type interface. It doesn't all matter. And I think what they're kind of incumbent players are making a bet on is that they've done such a good job with the journey builders. People are going to stay with that because that's the tool they're familiar with. But I think like as like if you look at Keto to interval transition, for example, people are willing to believe better email, slightly better functionality. Now, what if it's like 10% because you can do this deeper segmentation that you know is possible, but it's really hard to do with our tool? I think it's going to be really great for customers around you on the cutting edge, let alone new players in the new startup buy the tool that actually allows them to do the marketing.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I think the part you said about one email, about 500 different variations, can we see that world? Um, maybe I want to step back and think about, let's say you have that world. Let's say, you have a CRM now that can do that. Which parts would you want control on, and which parts would you be like, AI or whatever system there is, go and do your thing? If you had a magic wand and you could create a tool like that, where would you want explainability and control, and where would you be okay to like let it run?
That's really interesting. What is a CRM tool, right? It lets you like segment. It lets you build audiences. It lets you segment those audiences, and then it lets you send stuff to those audiences, right? So where do you actually need control of the system? I think marketers are, for a while at least, going to walk into what that audience is. You can totally imagine a world where you consume a company's data and then you get recommended audiences, right? Based on did they purchase, are they resurrection, things like that, right? And I think there's already a ton of tools that do that. So it's kind of like table stakes. The second thing is like the segmentation. What is it? I think people are more comfortable, especially in the marketing world, of the data science thing. Here or what the segment should, of course, apply like your marketing know-how and kind of your product know-how and validate those. But I think that's where you wheels off the wheels. And then the last thing is the send, right? That's where like marketing have a strong POV. I'll kind of say like the counter argument against that is as long as you're testing and you have a system that can actually send and allocate the winning variance, you're not running A/B test. The world where you send a bad email, the TAM is actually relatively small in that situation. And I think that's a compromise that a lot of smart marketers would make if it gives them the ability to like scale out personalization. But it just depends, right? Really brand conscious companies might never make that trade-off. But if you think about how Facebook ads look, for example, right? A lot of companies are actually doing that where it's like, just serve whatever for customers. Will let your algorithm do the thing. I don't know why email maybe like wouldn't be different.
That's so interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. It's like a trade-off you're willing to take, like you said, for maybe there is one bad email that goes out, I don't know, to a few people, but largely if you can take a lot more gains by doing personalization at scale, you'll want to go after that. And again, depends on company to company in terms of their risk-taking ability.
Totally. And there's situations where it just never makes sense, right? Like a price increase email. You're not going to like do a deep personalization and let AI write it and then test a ton of variations against it because that's just such a strong brand moment that you want to control. But you might be able to like test into some smart segmentation from previous campaigns that are like, these are the 10 or we should target for a price increase email. We have some insights about the language we should use, but we're going to control every aspect of it because we just feel like this is really important for brand trust.
I think you said something like we could take some information or recommendations on what audiences make sense. Do you think that's also an aspect where we need more intelligence? Because I've seen both versions. I've seen versions where we're like looking at very rudimentary segments. It's like active versus dormant users. And I've also seen like, marketing teams go very deep, but it's manual. Like they have to do a lot of initial analysis, which is one off before they have a deeper understanding. But I'm curious on your perspective of, does it even matter? Do we care for it just yet? And if it does, yeah, what tools do we have at, with the current CRM stack?
Yeah. The way that I've approached this, or at least my exposure to it, is like through data science. And this is like one of those moments where you kind of feel like data science has all the answers. So go to your team. Hey, give me a predictive churn model of customers that aren't going to churn. Okay, we're going to look at 100 different attributes of our customers. And then the number one, like the customer didn't get. And you're like, oh, okay. So I could have probably arrived at that set myself because you're not using it or you're not engaged anymore. So there's like two paths, right? Do you keep going further and like, what are the things that bring users to stop engaging? Maybe that's where data science and sort of like this audience building happens. But then you're just like, oh, make customer like your products through strong product marketing, strong lifecycle, and ultimately a product that fills their job to be done. Yeah. Do we really need to like figure out these really complicated audiences? Maybe not, right? The thing is, again, you sign up to like accomplish what you want to be done, love your product, come back with new, at least within the world. That's how we think. That's how we think.
That makes sense. That makes total sense. Tell me a little bit more about how you've used AI. Most of the companies I talk to, it's still patchwork, where we try to use AI in some parts and others are not quite ready for it. So, like, I think we're all aware that it is kind of broken, but it's coming together. Like that, hopefully that new world will make sense over time. So with that understanding in mind, tell me a little bit about what has worked, what hasn't. Where have you deployed AI and how you started with that?
Yeah. And this goes to something we've talked about before. So I'd love to like introduce my hot take, which is like with AI, even if in implementation state, I don't know the skills and the people that we're hiring right now for lifecycle are really the right people. Because what I'm using AI for today is just in for standardization for content team. So what do I mean by that? 23-year-old girl, 1 or 2 years out of college. How did they know how to write like engaging, compliant emails? They don't really, right? And multiply that by having team members who have all this variation. So we have AI agent, AI bot, take in the whole of the emails that are and write in performant, right? We think it's going to be performant based on the data. So that's like a key part of what marketing does, right? To create the comment. The second thing that we're thinking through experimentation, because we do a lot of experimentation at ClickUp, right? So go look at all the experiments on what are the results, we test it, and then validate, create different hypotheses and kind of believe trees for what we test, right? We're using AI to test with ClickUp today to like make it much easier to do lifecycle marketing and to do it as like from a very product experimentation standpoint. So for me, it's like, I want my team to actually be more like product managers and use AI like a product manager would, not necessarily like a marketer would.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Maybe let's talk about the first point, which is I think what you're saying is jobs and skills are going to look different. And from a managerial perspective, the people you hire will also be different. So what would be your advice to a 23-year-old? Let's say your advice to you 10 years ago, but in this world, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's an obvious thing, which is like get comfortable with working with LLMs. But if you're interested in SaaS, you're going to get a lot of benefit from knowing how LLMs work and being able to prompt. But the skill set still remains the same, which is like understanding what your product is telling users supposed to be for, and then also understanding what users are using it for. And then what are those paths through the product, right? So it's very much like a product manager standpoint, which is like, what is the job to be done for each persona I'm working with or each segment? Where are they getting stuck in their job to be done? And then the creative thinking component of it, which is really experimentation. A lot of people should learn about like how to run good experiment and what makes an experiment bad when you won't get a learning from it. But what can I do to test my hypothesis of why users are stuck throughout their journey? And for Lifecycle is amazing. Accelerate your learning implementation so much quicker because sending an email, doing some sort of like any product tooltip goes much faster. The cycles are incredibly fast, like the product development cycles. So you can get a ton of reps, a ton of learning compared to like a traditional PM touching your app. Like the difference is pretty crazy in magnitude and velocity. So that's like that would be my advice to people to like learn what the skill sets of like product management are, because that's really everyone's going to be a product manager one, and they're going to have AI to augment the skills that they not the strongest.
I cannot agree more. Whether it's like engineering, whether it's marketing, everything is sort of blending into think about the problem, know how to structure that, do more strategy and analysis of what your company needs, and the rest will be delegated to an AI system. Okay, let's maybe switch to a more. I want to talk a little bit more on the tactical execution bottlenecks today. So let's start with when you have to run a personalized campaign. So by personalization, let's say we have a few content variations, we have some orchestration in place, some timing optimizations, right? And of course, different segments we want to go after. Today, when you have to do that end to end, how much time does it take you or your team to get through it?
Our velocity is amazing. We can usually go one day from writing that vague CEO request to launching something. We said, right? Campaigns are difficult because you have to do all these like edge cases and the different like segmentations. But if it was easy as like get a task, a million ideas for how to do that, then it's a question of prioritization, picking up new and creating a great experiment, or at least an experiment that's like 80 good, and then launching it.
Okay, that's great. So what you're saying is that part is actually easy. Like that's if you have an idea, let's throw it in. That part is kind of solved by CRMs. So let's talk about the flip side. So what is not easy? And some of the things you already mentioned are actually like how do we create 500 variations? How do we do personalization at scale? Let the system decide what's working, what's not. Are there any other things that come to mind that you think why the setup itself makes it complex, or the tooling itself makes it complex?
I think analytics is difficult at least like where I'm at and other companies I've been, when you try to make life cycle experimentation engine, because you often are working with marketing analysts who are like analyzing like Facebook ad traffic campaigns. And it's hard for them to visualize basically email or experiment when they get users the product. We've had some difficulties there, and especially trying to scale that a bit. So I think that's difficult. Analytics is so important. Like if you run a ton of experiments at scale, you actually need the learning to decide what to do next. Otherwise, you're kind of just like running in circles again and again to show velocity, maybe without impact. So I think that would be a big challenge for marketers. That's probably the biggest area that's on right now.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. That's a good call out because, like, yes, we launched a campaign. Now what? Like, it's the post processing, digesting all the information, knowledge sharing, feeding it back into the system. What do you think is so let me think through some challenges that I've seen. One is just so many different tools. Each tool does one thing right. Right? It's like, all right, now we're porting something from Iterable to, I don't know, an amplitude and then a mixed panel, and we're just like, stuck in this tool hell. The other piece I've seen is just data being data. Like data is noisy. You just gotta deal with it, or maybe in the future throw AI at it. What do you think is the bottleneck there? Like, why is this so challenging to do clean reporting today?
Well, I guess because once you run the campaign, finally get the answer, do their thing, I think the readout and like the actual output of it works well. But you definitely have an idea, which was getting the actual you need to build your audiences, whether those audiences are selected by AI or not, is a challenge. Right? Because I think a lot, well, especially as you go work hard, are like, we can't immediately create an audience. It's like anyone who visited this part of the app 7 days ago and then I did X, Y, Z that is in Roman, right? Like that's actually that's a data challenge to try to get all those data points into your CRM, moving that around. Two, then you have all your data points floating around. That's a lot of cost that like interval and all these people before that's where they make a lot of their event volume attention to. That's really challenging, feeling like tight. CEOs like average, I want it on Tuesday, and you're like, it's gonna be really hard on users from Romania that are meetings like 7 days ago. Just getting all that data not easy. It's a request to another team, and that's where it's like you think about how the tool and the stack changes or if it's done right. What about a marketer using AI to run SQL to build an audience? Right? Like, they're never going to, they don't have the domain expertise to begin with.
Oh, that's so interesting. Uh, so there's two, three things going on. One is, hey, how do we complete the loop? How do we take all of this data to understand what audiences to start with? But the larger point behind that point is an expert has to do that, or AI has to become really good at, building the SQL, maybe even like iterating on it with the marketer just to make sure numbers are accurate. And that's part of the reason why there is a dependency on data teams to get that going. And then the other thing I see, and I think you alluded to it, is also now that has to become a segment that is stored somewhere. That's like actual plumbing has to be done. It's not just it automatically becomes a segment that you can start using in the future.
Yeah. And you might need like an agent to check the agent that's writing the SQL, right? Like it might be these like stack layers of agents like each other. I'm sure it's going to be possible in the future. You going to take a very confident person. Maybe it's already happening. It lets a marketer write SQL to get an audience to then set campaigns out. I'm sure some people are doing it, but I don't feel comfortable enough in the space yet to allow for that to happen.
No, I've seen flavors of this where if the tool is all one shot, it's like click a button, magic happens. It's probably not going to work. And maybe in the future it would. But the reason is you need to iterate with it, you need to educate it, you need to validate, you need to review until it gets to the right point. Um, and that, I think that design pattern has to be part of whatever we're building in the CRM space, right? Like, or in any space for that matter. That's a good segue into the future. So we talked a little bit about what this AI native CRM could look like. Uh, Maybe I don't know if you have a dream world. Like, what would you expect this tool to do? Let's say you have engineering, data, like all your resources at hand. You have infinite money. What would you go and build?
Wow. What would I want to build? That is so interesting. I guess I'll just focus on the use case, but I think it's a tool where you're able to visualize at a very high level your customer, right? And do some basic segmentation to understand like where's the biggest opportunity, right? Where's 80% of our health. And once you get there, then it gets some insight about maybe from what's going on there. And then some actual real product insight. I'm thinking about this as like in the SaaS space of like they're engaged using this feature, they're not using it, right? Be able to do rounds, pick what I want. I finally find an audience that I like, that I want to work on, move that in different areas of the product. Again, visualize attributes and then also like brainstorm with AI. What are some ways that I can use that data to personalize what I'm about to have in the user? But pick a different variation and then go test it on scale and get like a very clean laid out back that's like the variation E, D, Z worked, but everything else didn't work, right? And then get some insight about why it didn't happen. You can keep the growth loop.
Yeah. I love your theory of like start from the top level. Like, give me a full 360 view on users. Where's 80% of the opportunity, and then drill down. run testing at scale and then go back and review that. I think that's what's missing in the current setup, where you're just seeing a list of campaigns and you're like, what do I do here?
Yeah.
Where do I start?
Yeah. And even for ClickUp, like an example of this is, and a lot of SaaS products are like this, where your actual like user retention curves drop off a cliff, and then they stabilize with the successful. But if you think about all your time, you're losing something like 40 to 50% of them, right? That's actually where I think a ton of lifecycle teams have an opportunity to be like, we can recover 5 to 10% of people who signed up, they never came back. There's an opportunity there, but what about them that we can kind of detect or know about them might make them want to come out and try our products? That's like something, that insight I would love to have tomorrow and to start working on that. It would get me excited here out of bed, because we kind of over-index the happy paths for users, especially in marketing. We almost never think about like, what are the unhappy users, the users that still stick around.
That's also very interesting, because you're right. Like, we can create the happy path of life cycle from activation to nurture to retention and whatnot, but it's really the unhappy exception flows where we actually need life cycle for, right? And I think the most basic version I've heard is most of the times the dip is like as good as, yes, we hit a paywall, sure. Dormant users are not engaging. I'm curious if you have examples there.
Well, the insights were never that good, which tells you that there's actually it's not a data only opportunity. It's a data and a marketing and a testing opportunity. Because I don't blame data science. We looked at everything. One thing was like, log in. You're like, okay, cool. I'm going to have to figure out, I'm going to test into it. Might encourage them to come back. And that could then become a data point that we feed back to the data science team, and that helps them refine their models and get more sophisticated. I think maybe like, here's another hot take. Now I think about it, like marketing does really rely on data science to tell us what to do. But data science is like, you kind of have to go create reality a little bit. And that's a data point that we can take back and make our models more efficient. But we're just analyzing what's going on. Like, there's not many like latent or uncovered insights, at least that I've seen, right? It bubbled up that are like, this is revelatory. This is going to change our entire strategy.
Yeah, almost goes back to your point on like marketers being product managers. So you gotta like understand the product, see what, like, have some strong opinions there, then blend it with data to see if you can find unusual.
Have a hypothesis, right? Like maybe the user came to your product for a feature that you have used and you're like, that feature is bad. So like they probably stopped using it, but what if we introduce them to another feature, right? And that's the beginning hypothesis that you can test. And you might get to the point where like, I'll promote that feature that nobody likes. Let's try to like change our media strategy and acquire the users to begin with, right? Or put them into a different area of the product when they start signing up and using it. And there's so much opportunity there that I think is both the challenge and the opportunity with like Lifecycle now. It's like we actually have the ability, like I said at the very beginning, to test, iterate, and get insights super quick. What to do with them, where to take them, and not just be like, okay, we're going to use this as a different type of email. Let's also think about the entire, like, how can we actually change that? It's going to make everything else more successful.
I love all the hot takes that are coming through, and that's a good segue into our hot takes section. So I'm going to just ask you a bunch of questions, no right or wrongs, but just looking for hot takes here. All right. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
In an AI world, who would you hire? A 23-year-old self-sufficient AI-forward person or an experienced strategic marketing leader?
Depends on what you have. I would love to hire. I'd probably take a bet on a kid who is self-sufficient and learning about AI, and the person who has a playbook that wants to run the playbook, basically.
Do you envision a world with multiple niche AI decisioning tools or one unified Salesforce-style platform in the next, let's say, 5 years?
At least in the next 5 years, I think we're going to see like an explosion of tools, and then they'll probably do consolidation movement. I don't know. Like, hopefully, Salesforce will just become like the thing because they acquired all the players and not out of contention. The other thing is, I think coming is for companies building things in-house that just fit, right? Because why would you spend millions of dollars platform, you only need 25% of the value it offers.
Yeah, everybody's attempting to build things in-house. I think we'll see a bubble there where it's like everybody's trying and then they understand, okay, some things are possible and some things are not. Uh, and then we'll find this happy medium, I think, which is probably going to be either one AI foundational tool, whether it's your OpenAI or cloud-like system, and then you've got tools that like are built around it, and that's your aggregator platform. Um, I don't know, or there is a one good tool that does it all right, like this AI forward CRM that we're talking about. All right, the last one. What is one thing you think everybody is betting on that's actually off, and then in the next 2 years they're gonna laugh that they were thinking that this is gonna be real?
What are people betting on, at least in my world? I think that you can bolt on AI to legacy tools and it'll make them better than what people want. I don't think that's the case. I think like the next wave of products build AI forward, and they're not just trying to add like some sort of chatbot interface to something that's always existed.
I gotta tell this to my team. No, makes sense. No, I believe that too. I agree. Awesome, cool. That was a really good conversation. So many hot takes. I love that we went deep and broad and very blue sky in so many directions on where CRM is going. Um, uh, just to close it off, any last thoughts or any advice to the marketers listening to you out there?
Don't fight the future, embrace it, have a healthy criticism, but use it kind of more of a point of view and ultimately part of your brand so that like you're going to ride the wave, not getting crushed by it.
That makes total sense. And this is what I tell my team as well. And to myself, it's like every day I got to be learning something new. Otherwise, we'll be behind.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dylan, for bringing so much clarity and, hot takes to the evolution of CRM and what's next for lifecycle marketing. If you enjoyed this conversation, follow the show, share it with somebody who's ready to get practical about AI and marketing. I'm Neha, and see you next time with more real stories, real results, maybe a little bit of fluff.